We are about to enter into a car price recession. Yes, you heard that correctly. Today, I'm discussing 4 indicators or reasons why I think we may be headed into a decline in car prices or a car market crash. Now, the topic of this video actually stems from an announcement that was made by Ford Motor Company earlier today, and that was the fact that they are cutting prices for their all-electric Mustang Mach-E. Now, Ford says this has to do with the fact that they've been able to ramp up production and they have economies of scale, but at the same time, back in August, they announced a price bump or increase for the Ford F-150 Lightning by $7,500 because there were chip shortages and supply constraints. So I'm not quite sure if that's really the reason why they're cutting prices or if it's really because, well, a couple weeks ago, Tesla cut prices for their Model 3, Model Y, by upwards of 20%. But we'll get to that in just a second. The Mustang Mach-E is seeing a price cut between $600 and $5,900. And if you happen to place your order but not taking delivery, you can take advantage of those price cuts. Now, Tesla just a few weeks ago cut prices between 6 and 20%, which in real money terms was upwards of $13,000. You can now purchase a Tesla Model 3 Performance for around $53,000, whereas before it was around $63,000. That is quite a significant decrease in price. So what is the reason for these price cuts? Starting off with Tesla, the main reason is, well, they're starting to see, or they're foreshadowing, a decrease in the demand for electric vehicles from Tesla specifically. So to be able to increase or keep their revenue stable and satisfy their investors, they're gonna have to cut costs in order to increase demand. It's simple supply and demand economics. Now, Tesla is the #1 manufacturer of electric vehicles in 2022. It accounted for something around 60 or so percent of all electric vehicles sold last year. Ford, on the other hand, coincidence, is the second largest EV maker. Now, by a pretty significant margin, but they are in second place. So it's no wonder why, if Tesla did something, well, Ford decided to follow suit. And for that reason, you're seeing kind of this race to the bottom to see who's gonna have the lowest priced vehicle. Now, there is an argument saying that Tesla purposefully reduced their price to be able to edge out the competition, and not necessarily because they're seeing a decrease in demand. Well, that may be the case for new competitors like Lordstown Motors or Faraday Future, but you're not going to bankrupt Ford Motor Company by decreasing the price of a Tesla by $10,000. Ford isn't going anywhere in terms of removing its EVs from its lineup. If anything, it's actually doubling down. So to me, this isn't an argument of, well, they're trying to push out their competition like Ford or GM. Tesla is actually trying to increase demand. That is the first indicator as to why I believe car prices are starting to come down, or at least demand for new cars is starting to come down, in which case prices will start to ease up as well. You're going to stop seeing really large markups for just run-in-the-mill regular cars like Toyota RAV4s or Toyota Camrys. They're going to start stabilizing. And that brings me to the second reason why I think prices are starting to come down, or will come down here in the next 6 months. And that has to do with the fact that you're starting to see some incentives pop up in car commercials, on websites. I mean, pull up any of the large manufacturers like Chevy, GM, Toyota, and you're gonna actually start seeing incentives of $199 a month leases or 2.99% APR for 60 months. I mean, in an environment where interest rates are in the high 5s to mid 7s, maybe even the 8% for auto loans, for a manufacturer to offer less than that, like 3%, they're really taking a hit in order to increase demand or spur demand for these vehicles that they're offering these incentives for. If you would have taken a look or examined the last 2.5 years, you would have probably noticed that there weren't very many incentives being advertised on television, Super Bowl ads, or on any of the manufacturers' websites. I mean, if you were able to find a $199 per month lease, say a year ago, you would have found a unicorn because those didn't exist. But today, I checked GM's website and you can actually get a Chevy Trax. Not that I'm sure anybody really would, but you can get one for $199 a month. Now, the question comes down to inventory and whether there's enough supply out there or if they're just baiting and switching, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But you can find lease offers for Chevy Equinoxes, Toyota RAV4s, again, things that you wouldn't really be able to find for the last 2.5 years or so. I even went so far to check the F-150, which has been starting to see an increase in supply, and Ford is offering a 0% APR for 36 months on a new F-150. That's kind of insane considering where the interest rates are today. Now, manufacturers throw incentives at dealerships and consumers like you and I because they're wanting to increase demand, which means that either they're already currently seeing a decrease in demand or they're foreseeing that over the next short-term period. Now, the third reason why I think prices are starting to come down is because of the supply. Now, Cox Automotive is a big player in this industry. They own a lot of different companies, including Kelley Blue Book, and they manage a lot of the dealership software. So Cox Automotive has a lot of data in their disposal. And according to their recent report published earlier in January, they said that December had an increase in supply compared to the prior month. December was showing about 1.8 million units of supply versus 1.62 million units in November. So between the 2 months, you saw a pretty significant increase in the amount of supply. Now, this is nowhere near the amount of supply that we saw before the pandemic, but it is much higher than the supply we saw for the last year and a half or 2 years. In fact, supply at the end of December 2022 was about 715,000 units higher than supply for December of 2021, just 1 year prior. In fact, we've been seeing a surge in supply since September of 2022. So between September 2022 to December 2022, supply has increased by over 500,000 units. And as of the end of 2022, there were 58 days of inventory on dealership lots on average. Now, they do caveat that with the fact that it really depends on what model you're looking at. If you're looking at a crossover SUV, you're probably looking at the lower end of that supply versus something like a pickup truck or a performance car where there was a little bit more days of inventory. But on average, you're looking at 58 days of inventory versus 53 days of supply just 1 month earlier in November of 2022. So a pretty dramatic increase in supply and a decline in the demand is going to lead to a pretty significant decrease in prices over the next short-term period. Now, the fourth and final reason why I think we're entering into a car price recession, if we're not there already, is because consumer spending continues to decline. Since November of 2022 and even further along in December of 2022, consumer spending, which is how much you and I pay for goods and services out there, has declined month after month. More specifically, December 2022 saw a 0.2% decline from the prior month. Now, 0.2% may not sound like a lot of money or anything at all, but considering the fact that most of 2022 and 2021, consumer spending continued to increase because people had more savings, wages were going up, that's a really good sign that things are starting to slow down. People aren't willing to pay markups or higher prices because people are starting to need that money for essentials like food and utilities. And furthermore, as of December 2022, you've been starting to see about 6 months of consecutive decline in inflation, which is another indicator why prices are starting to come down. And dealerships may be offering more incentives in order to incentivize people to buy these cars. So there you have it, folks. That was 4 reasons why I think we have entered or will shortly enter into a car price recession and car prices are going to start to crash. Now, my one caveat to that is this does not apply to all vehicles. If you're looking at a Ford Bronco or a Chevy Corvette or a Hummer EV, yeah, you're likely not going to see a huge price decline over the next 3 to 6 months, simply because they're still trying to build enough to catch up with demand. On the other hand, vehicles like a Toyota RAV4 or a Camry, a Nissan Pathfinder, those are vehicles that are much more common, and people are going to be a little bit more hesitant to pay any type of markup and probably going to wait for the dealerships or the manufacturers to incentivize them to come into the lot and actually pick up a vehicle. So if you're in the market for one of those commonplace vehicles and you could probably wait another 3 to 6 months, maybe a year, you're probably going to find yourself in a better financial position by waiting than jumping at your first opportunity today. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts about this topic. Do you think car prices are starting to come down, or are you not seeing that at all? Let me know what car you're considering to purchase and your thoughts on the topic down in the comments below. But if you did enjoy this video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for all of the weekly car videos, everything from car reviews to market talk to everything in between. Also, check me out on all the social media at Shwazy_. I'm going to put that information down in the description below. And as always, everybody, I hope you stay Shwazy, stay healthy, have a wonderful day.